Yeah, that's an interesting question because it really varies by the retailer. When I work doing, just full-time food production, there's some chefs that just view mushrooms as mushrooms, don't really care what type it is, and then but ones who do know what different types are, definitely have more of a desire for some of the less common ones like lion's mane or piopinos or chestnut mushrooms. Some of those are a little bit harder to cultivate and don't yield a lot, so it's kind of finding that balance of what's easy to grow and what people desire more, which lion's mane definitely fits well into that category because it's not too difficult to grow, but it is a more gourmet thing. You can't find it at the grocery store here. There's some places that have it. Oyster mushrooms are always a good option because they're extremely vigorous and easy to grow, and they're very powerful. That's a fungus, in terms of being able to, overcome a lot of challenges that growers face. But because of that, lots of people grow them, so they're more common. But I still see plenty of restaurants marketing them as like specialty gourmet mushrooms. So it's really you got to feel out who you're trying to sell to and what they want, and who their clientele are. Because like I said, some chefs are like, a mushroom is a mushroom, I don't care. But then some have a very fine taste for some of the better ones, and so you know I'm partial towards lion's mane because it's I like how it tastes and what it does health wise. But yeah, I definitely recommend that one.
Yeah, I'd say in over the next 5 to 10 years, lion's mane and any hericium type mushroom is going to be something that's highly sought out, and again, really easy to grow. Oyster mushrooms are always going to be something that people are going to seek out, especially now that more people are becoming aware of mushrooms and how available they are. It's kind of interesting here in Pennsylvania because I live in the mushroom capital of the world. Basically, I'm like an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes away from where 60% of the United States mushrooms are grown. Um, and we see a lot of button mushrooms. We see the silver dollars, the portobellos, the cremini, all of those. I think there's a lot of potential for the almond agaricus mushroom, which isn't commonly cultivated but easy to grow if you have a farm already and you're capable of producing hot compost, because the almond portobello mushroom will grow, or the almond agaricus will grow on finished compost, and it has like a very almond extract type flavor. So that's something that I started seeing a couple growers working with in Pennsylvania. Um, Shiitake, that's one that a lot of consumers already know about, and it's fairly simple to grow. I personally don't like growing them indoors because they're kind of messy, but they grow very well on logs outdoors, and I believe they have a better flavor and the more appealing morphological features when they're grown outdoors. So that's something that the consumers already are aware of. Just a side note, shiitakes in Pennsylvania are in this really interesting space where all of the shiitakes in Pennsylvania are grown from Chinese spawn that's shipped over in bulk. And it's just this weird thing. Like they're selling these shiitake logs of sawdust for like $1 a piece, and all these farmers are just growing and throwing the block away after one grow. So that's really interesting. And shiitakes are really lowering in price here. So I don't know how that's going to affect the market in other places because I mean, I've been traveling around the country teaching about mushrooms for like 4 or 5 years now, and I've been places like in New York City and Miami are the most expensive places that you can sell mushrooms, and it doesn't even matter what the other markets are like. There will always be some of the places where mushrooms will be the most expensive. But then you go to random places in the middle of America and where there aren't mushroom cultivators, and there's maybe one person growing mushrooms, and they're able to sell them for similar prices like that. So I mean, really, you got to read your market, see what's available, see what people are capable of buying at the grocery stores. You have to always understand that there's going to be a market of people that will always go to the farmers markets and things like that for their mushrooms. And again, chefs, you got to figure out your chefs. Some chefs don't care; they'll take whatever you have and they'll put it on the menu as wild mushroom or whatever. Like they'll always say that your mushrooms are like wild mushrooms, even though they're not. So just to like answer your question with a short and simple statement, lion's mane, oyster, shiitake, they're always going to sell really, really well. They're always the things that are more familiar with people. And I believe over the next 5 to 10 years, as we have more cultivators coming around, we'll see more unique cultivars. There are people that are starting to experiment with growing things that aren't traditionally grown. So I'm really excited to see where that goes.
Oh.
Yeah, and one more thing. I don't know if you're going to get to this later, but in case you're not, I just want to throw it in there. The mushrooms are very fast growing and fast to decompose types of food. So for getting into kind of the business of it, it's important to also think about ways to process mushrooms for a longer shelf life, whether that's dehydrating them, making powders, making tinctures, extracts, and that's a really important thing to keep in mind when approaching mushroom cultivation.